an overture has arrived at last, and it is time to have a discussion, comrades. Are the Ruskies OP? Awful? Somewhere in the middle? Well, before we go there, caveat time. This video is just about the waifus, their stats, and their abilities. This isn't a guide to the event, and I am not out to discuss the new equipment in this video yet. We good? Let's go then. The latest girls are a huge mixed bag. I don't think we have ever had an event this polarizing before. Get it? Anyways, let's get her out of the way though. Aurora! The beta tester and anniversary girl that used to make people feel special for having and now makes us OG players salty that everyone gets to have her now. That aside, she is fairly bad and fairly worth further discussion as she has some of the worst stats in the game. In fact, she used to have basically the worst stats of any light cruiser, but there's one even worse than her now. We'll get to that though. Now then, while on the topic of polarizing, let's talk about Gangit. Gangit is a strange mixture of good and, well, to be frank, bad. She is in the top 5 worst for firepower and the top 5 worst for anti-air, while also being in the top 10 worst for HP and accuracy as well within her class of ship. So far not so good for this girl, that's for certain. Her first ability does of course increase her main gun efficiency by 80% and decreases her reload time by 35% for the first 4 salvos in particular. Shame though that it requires the usage of a blue gun. Doesn't exactly have optimal stats in the first place. That said, every time she fires, she is going to increase the firepower, torpedo, anti-air, and reload stat of all Northern Parliament ships by a whopping 18% for 10 seconds. Also, when her health falls below 30%, she decreases the damage she takes by 15% and decreases the damage of your destroyers by 10% for the remainder of the battle. So the abilities sound certainly interesting, but these stats are just flat out awful and put her in a very awkward place. C tier at best, I would feel for this girl, because sure, her first ability would allow her to, within 14 or so seconds, when min-maxed, buff other great ships like Tashkent like crazy! But these horrible stats are more than just a little hard to overlook, let's be honest. Next up though, I want to talk about my personal favorite girl for this event, the Tashkent. Tashkent is pretty much everything some of the other ships in this event wish they were. She tops her class in more than just a few stats. With her one ability taken into consideration, she will achieve the highest accuracy stat of any destroyer. You combine this with the highest firepower, the highest health pool. She's very fast, she has a pretty competent reload, and she even has a pretty high luck stat. Her anti-air is not that bad as far as a destroyer is concerned, and her torpedo stat is at least competent. Everything is competent to just flat out, well then, powerful when we start talking about this girl. And, well, she has some pretty crazy stats. Her 2 abilities here are definitely pretty interesting in themselves. Her main one is the Blue Cruiser. At the start of the battle, she increases her own firepower stat and spawns in a little ferry that fights for her, and as she sinks enemies, she gets even more firepower. The level 10 stats for this ability are as follows. She immediately increases her own firepower stat by 10%, considering she was the highest firepower destroyer already to begin with. That's kind of nice. Her special ferry lasts for 50 seconds and lowers the speed of enemies when it hits them, so not only is the ferry dealing even more damage for her, the ferry also applies a debuff to the opponent. And lastly, when she sinks opponents, she gains 2% more firepower that can be stacked up to 5 times, meaning she can achieve a maximum of 20% additional firepower. And here's where things kind of get crazy for Tashkent. That means, by technicalities, you can consider for the first 50 seconds of a battle, which that is significant. She essentially has 2 guns equipped while still being able to have torpedoes. Sure, they're only competent torpedoes, but I mean, This would be like saying if Prince Eugen could still fire her torpedoes while having another gun mount, like some other heavy cruisers or something like that. Like, it's just, this is just a crazy concept. This ability alone is extremely powerful. Her second ability falls a little bit more short. It's called Trajectory Marking. And for this one, when maxed out, at the start of the battle, increases main gun efficiency by 10% and accuracy by 15% for all your Northern Parliament DDs that have a Northern Parliament main gun equipped. So, here's a fun fact. All your Northern Parliament DDs, this includes herself. So this means even if she's the only one in, you know, the fleet, as long as you put a good Northern Parliament gun onto her, which I will of course do at some point. You don't see it in this video because I don't have the gold gun from the shop yet. But that said, as long as you do that, this ability will proc for her from her, and with it, she will achieve 175% gun efficiency. And with the 15% accuracy buff, she achieves the highest accuracy of any destroyer in the game at that point. So is there anything really holding this girl back? I don't know. Let's maybe come over here and go take a quick look at her all-out assault. Her all-out assault is a bit of an interesting one. The shells come out a little slow at first and then speed up as they go along. But there's also loads of them and they're very concentrated. So if you timed when this was going off and kind of like got up in the enemy's face right about as this was proccing, it's gonna hurt. Enemy's gonna feel that one, and then some, to say the least. So when we start talking about Tashkent, we're looking at a ship girl that has a competent worst case scenario all-out assault. Her second ability at least is helpful. It's not like the most amazing thing ever, but it's at least helpful. But the blue cruiser ability over here is just stunningly powerful. And when you combine that with her best in class stats. All that said, so where would I rate Tashkent? Honestly, I'd have to say S tier. She is a complete S tier, possibly even just a full-on S plus tier. This is an extremely overpowered ship. I hope any and everyone just seriously will get her. Next up on the topic of polarizing ship girls though, let's talk Grozny. Coming into the event, Grozny was the one I was actually getting the most excited for. I absolutely adored her design, and I still do. Her L2D skin, as you can see right here, it is pretty freaking awesome, especially when you see it moving. This skin, pretty great. Sadly though, that's probably the best part about Grozny. Grozny has a few things going for her, but she's also lacking in a few areas that just don't quite bring her there. She has a slightly higher firepower stat than Z23 before Z23 is retrofitted, so that's something, I suppose. She's one of the top 10 best destroyers as far as anti-air is concerned, and she also is one of the top 5 healthiest destroyers, highest HP pool of any destroyer, in other words. So she has a decent HP stat, decent firepower, and pretty competent anti-air. Okay, well, that's not sounding too terrible, but it's when we start to look at her abilities, we start to see there's a little bit more of a problem. Her first ability is full firepower, which is basically put every 20 seconds, 60% chance to increase her own firepower by 40% for 10 seconds. Now, at least when this ability is maxed, the chance for it to proc is pretty high, meaning it more often than not will. And the amount of firepower buff she gets from it is pretty high, 40%. And considering she had a okay firepower stat in the first place, that's not bad, but it's also not really anything to write home about. Her other ability, Anti-Air Vigilance, sure, it increases her anti-air by 15% when it's maxed out, but I mean, sure, this will make her one of the best anti-air destroyers there is, but if you needed anti-air, I'm not 100% certain why you're looking at destroyers, and if you are looking at destroyers, maybe go look at like Z46 or something instead of this poor girl. And sadly, her all-out assault doesn't exactly come to save the day, as you can see here. So, Grozny, cute, cute as heck cute, and even a class leader and a couple stats. But she does not have all that good of abilities to really truly back it up and help her stand out. This would be a great example of a average ship girl. For me, another C tier, maybe B tier best case scenario, since I did say average. But I mean, in all seriousness, she's never going to be anywhere near like A or S. That's for certain. Now, I'm sure everyone would love for me to move back along to yet another powerful Northern Parliament ship. But it's yet another, I guess truth be told, to a slight extent, polarizing Northern Parliament ship. We're talking about Razia over here, or as I like to call her, Soviet. Razia is a very interesting ship. She's in the top 10 for health and in the top 10 for firepower amongst battleships. She's also one of the top 10 worst when it comes to accuracy. Seriously, her accuracy is absolute garbage. That said though, she's definitely got a few things going for her. When the ship fires, she has a 75% chance when the ability is maxed out to fire Special Barrage. And the thing is, her barrage, as was shown in the earlier portion of the video when it was being a bit, you know, on the dramatic side of things, is this really cool ability where like a bunch of icebergs and stuff are kind of like falling down on the enemy. It's actually quite the powerful barrage. A powerful barrage, very high firepower stat, lots of health, doesn't sound too bad so far, and her main issue is accuracy, which her second ability over here, War Cry of Unity, comes into the picture. For each Northern Parliament and or Dragon Emperor ship in the same fleet as this ship, increases this ship's firepower and accuracy by 5% and can be stacked up to 4 times. Skill only works for the first 2 battles of each sortie this ship takes part in though, so this makes it seem like she's trying to be someone that wants to fight bosses, in other words. But the problem is her accuracy is pretty bad. She needs to be sortied with numerous Northern Parliament or Dragon Emperor ships to get her accuracy in order. And well, the Dragon Emperor fleet, that's not half bad. You know, the High Sisters, they're more so for farming than fighting bosses, so they're not really a good combo for Razia here. And as we've already seen, Grozny is okay at best, and Gangit is just weird and being carried hard by her abilities, otherwise she would be D tier unusable trash. So, this is where Razia has a little bit of a problem. But there is a combo that does exist for her that we'll discuss here in a little bit when we get to the final ship, that it does form a part of the combo. Before I talk about the combo, yeah, that's how that one just is gonna have to work. Where would I place her? Honestly, I'd place her in A tier. The combo that does exist for her does look like it'll be pretty darn strong. Her abilities aren't half bad, her stats aren't half bad. It's just her synergies could maybe be a little bit better, and her accuracy is holding her back a bit. And the fact that she is just so limited in her scope of where she can and can't be used also does hold her back a little bit. But it doesn't hold her back enough, considering, again, the firepower and the health pool are pretty darn good on this, and considering she's a battleship, those are kind of the stats you want on a battleship, so good to go on those. Solid A tier ship. And now we're off discussing yet another one that I'd have to personally say can be labeled as a average to maybe above average ship. This right here is a destroyer, and she definitely has a few things going for her, that's for certain. Having one of the higher health pools and one of the higher firepower stats of any destroyer, combined with a fairly okay accuracy stat, she's basically put a gunboat. With a 145 base firepower stat and 2,612 health, she's actually not that bad when you start talking about destroyers, truth be told, in those two fields. Though those aren't always necessarily the things you are looking towards a destroyer for. But then again, I mean, she basically put is just better in Minsk and almost every way, ironically, minus the anti-air. But then again, anti-air is the last thing you're coming to a destroyer for, let's be honest. Her abilities come up a bit more interesting. She has a smokescreen ability, as we can see right here, and when this ability is maxed out after the battle begins, and 30% chance every 15 seconds after that, she deploys a smokescreen that increases the evasion rate by 40% for all your ships that are in it. Does not sacrifice her smokescreen skills, that's nothing new. The smokescreen lasts for 5 seconds. It's a fairly okay ability. I mean, there's nothing significantly special about it, but it's not like it's terrible either. Then the mobility master ability decreases the ship's damage taken from enemy destroyers and torpedoes by 10%. Every 20 seconds increases the ship's speed by 5 and firepower by 20% for 10 seconds. Now this is a fairly interesting ability. This ability just flat out decreases some of the damage she takes from a couple different sources and will occasionally flat out guaranteed increase her speed and increase her firepower. So these abilities aren't bad. Her stats aren't bad. Things aren't looking that bad. All that's left is let's just go take a quick look at her all-out assault, which is meh. But that's okay. Her abilities are fairly okay. The stats are fairly okay. This right here, I think, is a great example of a, I guess I could say, above average ship. She doesn't really stand out against some of the more overpowered ships, that's for certain, but she could at least get some work done. She's at least usable, I guess is my point. I would say she's a B tier ship. A little better than Grozny, which breaks my heart to say, but definitely not comparable to some of the other fantastic ships of this event. Choppy. Now this is a ship right here. Choppy, when she is at her max level, she's a light cruiser, let's bear that one in mind, and has 172 firepower, not bad, 234 anti-air, that will get some jobs done, but she has over 4,300 HP as a light cruiser. There is heavy cruisers with less health than this light cruiser. So very high health for a light cruiser. Not too bad on her firepower, pretty competent anti-air. Her stats are already not looking all that bad, honestly. And then we take a look at her abilities. Her abilities is where she really starts to shine. Every 15 seconds, a 70% chance to fire a special barrage and inflict burn for 6 seconds to all enemies hit by it. That's pretty special. The fact that this barrage has such a high chance to proc and anything it hits is burned, just will burn, just is, period, just is definitely not bad. Her second ability increases her own crit rate by 15%, that's not too bad. Damage dealt to enemy destroyers by 20%, that's definitely not bad. And her main gun shell velocity goes up by 15%. Additionally, decreases the evasion rate of enemy destroyers by 10%. She is a destroyer. That sounds weird to say, but it's literally what she is. And last but not least, she does of course also have her own all-out assault that's not half bad either. Her barrage is not the most powerful barrage in the game. Her all-out assault is not the most powerful all-out assault in the game either. But it's the fact that she has a barrage, and she has an assault, and the barrage causes guaranteed burning damage, and she buffs her own crit, and she gives herself gun shell velocity. She does a lot. She does a lot. This is a pretty powerful light cruiser right here. And now that we're talking about Choppy, she's the one I want to talk about, because here is the combo where Tashkent and Razia are going to be, honestly, I feel like at their best, especially if you start talking about destroyer bosses. But you could do a 1-1 combo of Razia and Choppy, or you could do a 1-2 combo, again, of Razia with Choppy and Tashkent. And these little ideas are just a couple quick basic examples of combos that do exist with the new Northern Parliament ships that are actually going to be really strong, very competent. these can get some jobs done. Is there better? Yes, undoubtedly there is better, but these combos can get some work done, and they're pretty powerful. All that said, where would I rank Choppy myself? I've been stuck between A or S tier. I don't know if I want to go out on a limb and say she's S tier. I know for a fact she's at least A tier. Part of me is tempted to say S tier light cruiser right here. She has damage, she does debuffs, and she has a nice big health pool to give her at least a little bit of a form of tankiness, even though she's, you know, light armored. I mean, she's not bad. Choppy is one of the better ships of this event, to say the least. Now, all that said, we come to poor Hamlet Mercuria. With all that said though, thank you so much for watching this video here today. I wanted to have a chance to discuss my thoughts on the new Northern Parliament ship girls. What are your thoughts on the new Northern Parliament girls? Do you think I got anything wrong? Is there any adjustments you'd like to make? Any little caveats maybe you thought of when watching this video you'd like to point out? Etc. Whatever it may or may not be. Hey, comment section is there for a reason. I'll be sure to meet you there, and I'll be sure to see you in another video sometime. Thanks, and bye-bye.
You feel fucking